North Korean leader Kim Jong arrived at the cosmodrome in Russia's far east Vladivostok on Wednesday for a meeting with Russian President Vladimir Putin that underscores how the two leaders' interests are aligning in the face of their separate, intensifying confrontations with the United States. Putin has said prior to the meeting that Russia will assist North Korea to build satellites. Kim is expected to seek economic aid and military technology through an arms deal, although that would violate international sanctions that Russia supported in the past. Hours earlier, North Korea fired 2 ballistic missiles towards the sea, extending a high provocative run in North Korea weapons testing since the start of 2022, as Kim used the distraction caused by Putin's war on Ukraine to accelerate his weapons development. Natia Seskuria is an Associate Fellow at the Royal United Services Institute. She joins us now from Tbilisi. She's also an Associate Professor in Russian politics. Thank you very much for being with us. What is the message the two are sending to the world, especially to Western powers, by meeting at the space program launchpad in Vladivostok?
Thank you very much for having me. Well, this is a bit of a surprise because obviously there were much speculations about where this meeting would have been held. And Vostochny Cosmodrome Space Center, I think, is an interesting place for a meeting between the two most isolated leaders in the world, Kim Jong-un and Vladimir Putin. And this sends a message that this is not just a meeting between the two counterparts who are discussing bilateral relations, rather than the discussion will be held about the actual support that both leaders are looking for from each other. And mainly, of course, the main question there is what sort of expectations does Putin have in terms of granting, securing the military support from North Korean leader in this case.
So let's talk really about what each leader is aiming to achieve in this meeting. We're talking about an arms race that's very reminiscent of, 50, 60 years ago almost. And we have this pact, of course, North Korea siding by Russia together with Iran and China, etc. What sort of ammunition does Kim have that Putin is after? And what is Putin going to give Kim in return?
Well, yes, this is the main question, obviously. And Russia, I think, is looking forward to secure the conventional arms that North Korea has, including artillery shells and rocket artillery munitions. And of course, on the other side, Kim Jong-un might expect for some practical humanitarian aid, such as food supplies, raw material, but as well as the support, political support from the Kremlin at international stage, like such as the United Nations. And at the same time, of course, his expectations might also include some help when it comes to the development of its nuclear arsenal. But I think the main point here is that Vladimir Putin is becoming increasingly desperate when it comes to securing support from his allies, and he doesn't have many allies at this point, especially those who are expected to help him when it comes to supporting his war effort in Ukraine. Even when it comes to China, obviously there were much expectations and speculations whether China would provide the practical military support to Ukraine, to Russia. But when it comes to China, China has much to lose. But North Korea is a very, very distinct case, because obviously the country has been under heavy isolation, especially once it was clear that the US's attempts have failed, and during the Donald Trump administration. So at this point, I think Kim does not have much to lose, even though we have heard some of the statements from the US officials that North Korea would pay a high price if they decide to side with Russia in terms of providing them with the military stockpiles.
Natia Seskuria, fascinating input there. Thank you very much for joining us from Tbilisi and from the Royal United Services Institute. Thank you very much.